favorite character? If you have to pick one or choose one. It's
God.
only many characters there. Right?
Of all the many characters, Banadon, I suspect, yeah, because it was, as you know, the Lone Wolf series grew up out of a role-playing campaign that I started in the very, very early days. God, I sound so old now. You know, the golden age of role-playing, which it kind of was, and everybody involved with it knew it as well, which was a joy. But you know, '76 was very early days, as D&D hadn't been produced, and so it was really a campaign that was based on a set of wargaming rules, tabletop wargaming rules, with a sort of fantasy element tacked onto it, very naively sort of put together. And then, as I've stated in previous interviews, you know, I kind of discovered the 3 pamphlet set of the first D&D set. I've been playing Gygax's chainmail tabletop rules anyway, which is what led me, you know, to have an interest in what he'd produced there. And that was the eureka moment. As soon as I opened those books and read through them, I thought, God, this is the toolkit I've been looking for to produce, you know, a proper fantasy role-playing campaign. And then did that, so between 76 and 82, 6 years of campaigning, provided all the background, that developed Magnum quite considerably. And during that campaign, you know, I had a regular group of friends that we used to play. Ian Page, who co-wrote the Greystar series, played Greystar in the campaign. Another friend of mine was playing Banadon. And so when I think of Banadon, I think of my old friend and, you know, the campaigns we had, and very often Lone Wolf and Banadon were working together as the fighter, magic user, double act, keeping everybody alive. So yeah, I think Banadon would be my personal favourite. And certainly one I'd like to develop more in the untold adventures, because there's a lot of important stuff that happens to him in that time frame as well. Okay, so you can expect to see a little bit more about him. Okay.
Good. A similar question: what is your favorite book of all the 28 which are already produced? If you have to pick one, is it the first one that got every star, or the new version of the first one, and which one is the least favorite? You say, well,
will I own up to that? I wonder. The one I found most satisfying to write when I completed it, I think was book 18, Dawn of the Dragons, because it kind of had it just worked very well, and I'm very happy with the way that turned out. The one I enjoyed writing the most was book 5, Shadow on the Sand. Simply because it was a bizarre process. I was writing about a sort of Arabian land, hot, dry, dusty, sandy, in possibly the coldest winter that we've experienced in England for a long time. So it's way back in the middle 80s. And I'd taken time out. I had, you know, pressure was on because Lone Wolf had come out and was hugely successful right from the start. I mean, in the UK, books 1 and books 2 sold 100,000 copies in the first week. I mean, it's astronomical by today's standard. You know, it was pretty good by then, because there wasn't any other distractions, electronic or otherwise. People bought books for their entertainment, so book sales were generally, you know, very healthy. But even so, 100,000 in the first week was outstanding. So consequently, as you can imagine, 1985, 1986, I was under a lot of pressure from the publishers, and they were, just keep writing, just stay in your room and keep writing. Don't do anything else. Here's some more money, keep writing. And it was, you know, I was producing an incredible amount of material in that period with all the right incentives. So in order to produce book 5 on schedule, I had about 3.5 weeks to do it, and I decided just to go away in isolation, old-fashioned writer way, you know, and get the thing done. So I think it was sort of March. It was or late February, very, very cold, you know, for England, but you know, typical for Germany. You know, kind of -10 or something, and thick snow. And I rented a house or something that was, you know, definitely out of season, let's put it that way, and available. And this house had a sauna in the house. And so I used to sit every day in the sauna writing about these Arabian adventures. And then go out, you know, and go for a walk in the grounds, which were like thick snow. It was extreme. But, so really from just purely a personal point of view, that one I remember with great fondness because it was so unusual compared to the others. But like I say, Dawn of the Dragons, book 18, I think, most satisfying. when I completed that, I really enjoyed writing it. I'm very pleased with the effort. And also, obviously, extended version, because I had the option. I wanted to provide lots of added value, as it were, something new to relaunch the series. There was a lot of story that hadn't been told for two reasons. One, I had to keep the word count down in the original, because it was being targeted as a relatively young audience, 11 to 14 initially, when it came out. I said, not too many words, not too many pages. And that, funnily enough, that directive I had from my editor kind of had a big influence on me. And the influence was that I want to try and get maximum impact with minimum words. And that's not just simply writing less, that's really, being very efficient with the words I chose to get the maximum impact and deliver the maximum amount of information in as tight a format as possible. It was a discipline that has done me very well over the years. But as a consequence, and also the other point of view is it's kind of my first book, so I wasn't as good at writing then as I am now. You develop any art form, you get better and better as you produce more and more. So with hindsight, and it was 25 years later, I thought, I'll go back and I'll tell the missing bits of that story, and not just to flesh it out, but to actually explain fully what was going on. There were elements about the first book that weren't clearly explained, that had been niggling me, that had been eating away at me over the years, and I wish I'd put them into the first one. Like how was the king warned in time for him to send his son with the relief force to try and block the bridge? How did that happen? And I didn't explain the sort of, this laser beam link that this warning that triggered. So that gave me an opportunity to do it. And also Malice Mound, the Senarese secret temple. I like the paradox that it's right on the Kai doorstep, and yet they didn't know about it. Such real powerful magic keeping it secret for such a long time, and a horrific story going on inside that place as to what they intended. And I thought I'd like to reveal that as well. A bit more detail about Holmgard. I felt I sketched Holmgard too quickly in the first one. It warranted a lot more exploration and explanation. And then filling in some of the routes through the middle part of the book as well. So I'm delighted, and of course the most important thing is you get to play a part in the battle, whereas in the first book it's all over and done with and it's gone, and you don't really get a flavour of what it was like to be a Kai, what the day-to-day environment was like. So I thought, I'm going to put you right in the battle in this one, and you're going to see how it ended and how desperate it was. And it's a great start now in the extended version, because it's the first 60 route chapters, the first 60 sections deal with it. It's like when you come off the landing craft in Saving Private Ryan. The first 20 minutes are just full on, intense effect. So that's kind of what I was aiming for with the extended version. The response has been great. I mean, really. Universally, the fans have really enjoyed rereading that one, and it kind of has worked as well, because, as I say, most of the fans are now 25 years older, and you have these fond, distant memories of what you read back when you were 13 or 14, and often when you reread it, it doesn't have the same effect at all. You have this for obvious reasons. So I wanted to try and recreate that, but for a more adult audience, and then provide that missing material that was satisfying. So extended version 1 comes in a close second to book 18 in my personal satisfaction of which books I've read over the years. Now, anybody else want to jump in with a question? I'm monopolising the question market. You asked some very good ones. So, yeah.
Lago had and has a broadcast of enemies. Whether one where you thought, oh no, I shouldn't kill this guy so fast off.
I'm not sure if I understood you.
The Dark Lords.
The Dark Lords.
The Dark Lord, for example. There was one Harkan, was it? And we...
Book 5, yeah.
Yes, and we learned about it in Book 5, and then came the grand final. And he sat there, had this great move. It was an exciting big fight, but he was dead at the end.
Yeah.
And were there any moment where you thought, oh no, by any enemy, I shouldn't have killed this guy so fast because I could use them because crap, there was so much potential for this guy and I killed him on
I see what you mean. Yeah. Well, I had 19 other Dark Lords to play with, and I'd already, so yeah, he was expendable. Plus, I already knew what I was going to establish in book 12 when I was writing book 5. Okay, so the first 12 books were very clearly outlined. So kind of Harkon played his part. It's strange you should mention Harkon because he actually he's making a re-emergence in the tablet games we're doing. He's quite instrumental in. I wouldn't say he's the big boss at the end, but he plays a major role during the 3 new games that are being created, with an explanation as to why he's in Patagonia as well in book 5. So, but that, from a writer's point of view, that's really satisfying to actually go back and type a few loose ends and make sense of something, you know, that wasn't clearly explained. Or I didn't really need to explain it, frankly, when I was writing the game books. Harkon had his own objectives. You defeated him. You get a taste of how tough the Dark Lords are at the end of book 5. You make a transition into the MantiCon series as a consequence of it.
But it was very funny. I mean, he sat there in his room and was waiting for the wolf all the time.
Yeah.
Taking his time. And then comes the branch.
Yeah, he fouled up pretty badly, didn't he, Harkon?
I mean,
he could have made a better job of it.
I thought he loved it for a great show, but someone was very full of himself, I thought.
Yes. That's Dark Lords for you. They can be very arrogant. But they got their comeuppance. There are new baddies to be introduced later on. Some pretty mega ones at the end of the series, that's for sure. And a re-emergence of some old ones that have got bigger and tougher. So, like I say, lots of loose ends, lots of unusual wow factors at the end of the series. So it's difficult for me to actually reveal everything, so just you have to bear with me for now. But that thought process has gone, I've gone through that as to which ones I'm going to use again, which ones will get a reprieve, if you like. Gosh, it's so difficult not to, I'm trying to be not specific on this because there's so much detail in the last 4 books, and it would spoil it to reveal it now. So you have to bear with me on this one.
One of my favorite classes of characters was Pilot and the Vaqueros Knights and the Daisy Mages. How did you came up with that idea? Was it simply, the cowards of the South in a way, or why were they created? And what was the backstory to why to introduce them to the world?
Gosh, so the Vaqueros, well, you probably have gathered the Elder Magi are on their way out. Yeah. They're diminishing fast. Their powers are waning, and they realise it. And so it's a handover to the new generation with new powers. I just had a very clear vision of what the character would look like. So it's dark-skinned, plaited blonde hair, tiger eyes. There were the 3 elements of it. I thought, that's a fantastic look. That's a really good look. And from that origination, then I started to develop it. And probably fully with Matthew Sprague and I, when we were doing the initial rules for the intermediate role-playing system. And then we're looking at the powers that we're giving them and so on. The Vaqueros do actually, you'll be seeing them before the end of the series. There's quite a major role for them in the early part of book 31. So it's curious you say that because it's only in passing you really get, there's one as a guide, of course. But yeah, they've become I think it's just grabbed people's imagination. They like the whole. They're quite an original mix of existing elements. Tough young magic users, but in a jungle setting and with this strange sort of, extra abilities. Kai with a difference. Are they your particular favourite?
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand. That's good. So you play a character. You play a Vaqueros in the role-playing game. 2,
yeah. I played. Well, I tried every character class because I'm a fan, and I played 2. But they had something special, something unique. It was like they're mine. This was like my baby.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way about him as well. I'll get the joint adoption papers ready then, and we can sign those. But no, I'm delighted that you feel the same way about it. It's another one of those unique character systems that differentiates Lone Wolf from other role players. I've tried to keep it as original as I can. It's difficult. As Michael Moorcock famously said once, we're all rooting around in Tolkien's attic. Okay. All fantasy writers after Tolkien, we're regurgitating an awful lot of what he did. Which for me is quite ironic because Tolkien was a big influence on me when I was 14. I was reading a lot of his material. Okay, and as you do, you soak it up, and then you forget it, and then you get to use it when you need to use it. It comes out of the subconscious in various forms. So I'm glad I read a lot of Moorcock during my formative years, but I had no ambition to be a writer at that, when I was 14. I was just enjoying the stories, and there were great stories in that age as well. There's a lot of good fantasy being produced at that time. So it all helped me later to create Magma. I did have the delight of meeting Michael Moorcock as well. So he was at Luca 2 years ago, and fanboy meets author, and I was fanboy. So that was a nice twist. And my opportunity to say thanks very much, Michael. You've done me proud.